Black Panther 2 actor Tenoch Huerta talks about black and brown relations in real life and in this film. Paulie here, back on the channel. Make sure you are subscribed. I hope you're doing well. Well, let's do a couple things with this video. Let's read along. I'll stop and go. But then at the end, I want to share with you a theory, one that I stated last year, and one that has its pros and its cons. And this con could be part of a huge epidemic that is been happening in Hollywood. Why Black Panther's new antagonist Namor isn't just another Aquaman. This is by Javon Phillips. And it came out September 10th, like we had said. I've been sitting on it for a while. Opening November 11th, Black Panther sequel Wakanda Forever introduces a character who could be counted among the foundational figures of Marvel Comics, Namor, the Submariner, played by Tenoch Huerta. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our playlist in here because we've been doing a Namor, Black Panther 2 watch for almost 2 years now. We've had several videos, one including the comic book expert Clobber Times, where he talks about the background of Submariner. So that is definitely going to be in the video description. This new version responds to this time and how this world has transformed. So for me, it was natural and beautiful. Huerta told the Times at Disney's D13 Expo Saturday about donning Namor's trident. It could have been any brown-skinned Latin actor, but I got it. The modern lens, the modern times that are creeping into what is going to be this movie, but really just creeping into our entertainment as a whole. And in some cases it works, but in most cases it hasn't been. Right? The fans, the OG fans, are not happy with some of these new iterations because they feel it's just not sticking to the comic lore, the original lore. And like I said, it's a film adaptation. I think all things are fair in film adaptations, whether they're from a comic or a book. But we can argue whether it is a good movie or not. Wow. So you're talking about a new version for this new world, and you're talking about this color of your skin. Not talking about the story, not talking about your acting, not talking about the character's journey, but these other elements first. I do have a problem with that. At the biannual convention, the crowd gave Huerta a sizable ovation as director Ryan Coogler introduced him. The actor of Aztec and Puripecha origin brings to life one of the oldest antiheroes of all the comics. Namor the Submariner first hit stands in 1941, looking more like a Vulcan than the being of Mayan and Aztec influence who's introduced in Wakanda Forever. I think it's 1939, but again, we'll check in with our comic expert, Clobber Times. And yes, Huerta Tenoch has slowly amassed a huge following, so I have no doubt that that ovation was great. Good for them, and it's an exciting time. Okay, so in comics lore, Namor McKenzie is a hot-tempered, half-human, half-Atlantean being who is the ruler of the undersea kingdom of Atlantis. Much stronger than any human or Atlantean, he also is a mutant with the power of flight and the power to speak telepathically to marine life. If this sounds familiar, you know that the character of Namor was created 3 years before Aquaman. Over the years, he's befriended and gone to war with the Avengers, Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and more, including pitched battles with Black Panther and the country of Wakanda, which leads us back to his MCU iteration. Actor Winston Duke, who portrays M'Baku, describes Namor and his world as much more believable portrayal of a character who he basically thought of as another Aquaman. So this is the actor Winston Duke talking. In our version, it feels a lot more like It feels a lot more real than fiction. In the MCU fashion, we've grounded it in real cultural significance and cultural traditions. I'm going to stop right there. I really admire actor Winston Duke. I think he's a very versatile actor. You know, an actor that can like seem. I did not know this was the same man who was in the movie. What is it? Them, that Jordan Peele horror film, and then he was in Baku. This guy's got great range. Um, this is this gentleman's opinion, right? It feels more real than fiction. Um, guys, we're talking about fiction, so I don't know if this is just how all actors are talking nowadays, but we at the end of the day, we're talking about a comic book character. We're talking fantasy and fiction that, in their own way, talks about the universal conflicts of the human existence. And I actually think the more real life issues that get involved in comics, they just stop becoming comics. I don't know. Am I wrong here? What are your thoughts? Let me know. I might be totally off base, but then again, this is just one man's opinion, which is mine. And Winston Duke is saying, saying this. He also says we're grounded in real cultural significance and cultural traditions. Well, they're not real and cultural significance and traditions. Maybe it's significant, but they're not real. In fact, these are iterations, or some historians would call it mutations of real Aztec and Mayan cultures. This a Talocan new iteration. It's kind of like Wakanda's not real. And then he goes on, you see the real Latinx contingent that is present visually. Oh boy. So Winston, I would love to have a discussion with you because I don't know what you're talking about here. You go from cultural significance, cultural traditions, and you use the word Latinx. The Latinx contingent is visible. What, just because they're these Talocans and NAMOR is going to be brown? So you're mixing a lot of things here, and that's what Hollywood does. They mix a lot of stuff that really makes no sense. With the Latino slant, we definitely don't want to uh, discriminate against anyone, but Latinx, for us on this channel, for myself, has its place with people who are from a particular community within the Latino community. And for us, for me, it makes complete sense if you're gay, non-binary, to use Latinx. I'm with you. But as a catch-all term for the Latino culture and the Latino community to connect to other Latinos all over the world, absolutely not. Ryan Coogler's creation within the Marvel Cinematic landscape is one of deep honor and connection to real stuff. So I think a lot of people are going to see themselves represented. Oh boy. Okay, I am going to hold off on my Ryan Coogler theory till the end. And you notice not once, like in what Denoch is saying or what Winston's saying, no one's talking about the story of these characters. They're talking about real live cultural significance, Latinx representation, connection to real stuff. Winston, you might have been in the MCU game for a while, but I think what you're just talking about is just good old identity politics, and that has gotten old, and that's definitely old here at the Latino Slant. Huerta also comment on how Namor's introduction will affect how we view Wakanda. You will see them in a light of confrontation. We don't get along. But it's funny, in the end, they have too much in common, said Huerta. It portrays what is happening here in the States from my perspective between the minorities of this country. I think at some point we need to join together and create that different thing. Tenoch Huerta, I love you, but all due respect, what are you talking about? Are you saying, from your perspective, that all blacks and browns don't get along? What experience do you have? Because you're not from here, and you're obviously saying from your perspective. I don't know where you obviously come from Mexico City, and you talk a lot about the racial disparities there, and as far as on television. But what are you talking about here? Who's telling you that black and brown people, as a whole, as a majority, don't get along? Because when I hear people talking like that, I get really upset because I think that is completely false. It's ignorant. Of course, there's problems with as far as misunderstanding and this discrimination, but as a whole, absolutely not, man. Absolutely not. And that is another Hollywood. I don't even know where that comes from. Is it the man what doesn't want us to get along? That is just that. Yeah. I Woo, man. Especially like, brother, you're not from here, right? You're a Mexicano. It's a different experience. So Tenoch, you're from Mexico, and God knows I respect your acting, but I don't know if the experience that you have gathered while living in the States is a fair one, is one that is across decades and across many different cities and neighborhoods. Yeah, as a whole, as a majority, black and brown people get along. I'd said in previous videos where we slowly have gotten more and more information of what iteration of Namor this is going to be. I have come up with this theory of Ryan Coogler's vision and the black and brown issues of how he sees it. Coogler's from Oakland, and he had probably seen some stuff in the hood, some stuff of where he's growing up, as some brown and black division amongst certain groups, certain subcultures of the bigger African American and Latino cultures here in the States. I think he's drawn upon that, as he has drawn upon it in his other films, Fruitvale Station, Creed, and even in Black Panther, where he shows Oakland off. Because if you remember, at the end of Black Panther, they're opening up that center in Oakland. I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see some black and brown, youth there. I think that's interesting. I think it's a lot of heavy lifting to kind of, really inject this in what Coogler's doing. And from what Tenoch Huerta and Coogler have also stated, that they have gotten some really fine Latino historical experts as far as the background of Namor and all the Talocans. Talocan is made up. It's a made up word, kind of like being a Wakandan, all that stuff. So on the pro side, I think it can touch on something that is there in American society that could be very interesting, and only Coogler could pull it off. I'm a big fan of Coogler's work. On the con, I think it can get very one-dimensional and maybe even stereotypical of Latinos really fast on what maybe this vision of Latinos are. And if it gets too bogged down at all in politics, then that is not good for the film. There's people already not liking this iteration of Neymar just because he's not a Mackenzie. He's a brown man. What are you going to do? So I think, like with anything, we're going to have to wait and see. And Coogler and maybe any of the Latino, let's say they're Latino writers or historians, they're going to have to really do a lot of work on that script. We are seeing in now this epidemic of Hollywood, and I'm going to finish with this, are creators and writers who are we're good-hearted, well-intentioned people, but by not hiring those people who have the expertise and who have the background into your writers team, the television show, the movies are going to suffer in the end and come out to be souveniristic tokens of what they really wanted to intend. And maybe their own do-gooder hearts just got in the way. And I'm thinking of other projects right now. And granted, I have not seen these films, but from what I've heard, the Woman King, the Warrior King film, the television show National Treasure, Edge of History, and now this, they all have the same through line, guys. They all have the same through line. I don't want to say rewriting. I really don't want to see any rewriting of history, but missing the mark because of problematic history, the history that's so complex, but missing the mark totally for the sake of identity politics, virtue signaling. You know, if you're going to get into it on the real. But we'll see. I have a lot of faith in Ryan Coogler. I'm not too crazy about what the Notch and what Winston are saying, but that's okay. I don't need to agree with actors. I want to see their work and I want to see the story. All right, what do you guys think? We got a little bit more info. We have a lot of info, a lot of videos on this subject of Wakanda 2, Namor, all that good stuff. Make sure you check it all out. Make sure you are subscribed. I thank you so much. Wherever you're at, keep your slant muy fuerte. Gracias.